Here's the truth. If you don't force yourself to act, nothing changes. You can talk about it, plan it, promise yourself over and over again, but deep down, you already know what happens. Days slip into weeks, weeks turn into months, and the same story repeats. You're waiting for the right moment. But here's the punch. You don't need the right moment. You need the courage to say enough and to move anyway. Action doesn't wait for readiness. Readiness is born the instant you move. Most people live trapped inside their own excuses. I'll start tomorrow. I don't feel ready yet. When I have more energy, then I'll go for it. These excuses feel comforting, but they're thieves dressed as friends. They rob you of time, momentum, and dignity. You wake up one day realizing you've broken more promises to yourself than to anyone else, and that realization hurts. That's the turning point. When the pain of staying the same outweighs the discomfort of change, that's when you begin to force yourself forward. You see, excuses don't require training. Anyone can make them. They flow naturally. But discipline, that must be built. And the first brick in that foundation is honesty. Brutal honesty. Saying to yourself, I'm the reason I'm stuck. I'm the reason things haven't moved forward. That admission isn't weakness. It's the seed of power. Because once you stop blaming the weather, your boss, your family, or your luck, you put the responsibility and the control back where it belongs, in your hands. The truth is, most failures don't come from lack of ability. They come from delay. People don't lose because they can't. They lose because they keep saying, not today. They keep waiting for motivation to magically arrive like a lightning bolt. But motivation isn't coming. Motivation is not the spark that ignites the action. Motivation is the reward you feel after you acted when you didn't feel like it. It's backwards. You move first, and then you feel the energy. You decide first, and then confidence grows. Think about it. How many opportunities have you missed because you waited too long? How many times have you let fear negotiate with your dreams? Each of those moments stacked up into regret. But the beauty of regret is that it can turn into fuel. If you've broken promises to yourself in the past, let that sting sharpen your decision today. Let it remind you that time will not pause until you feel ready. Every excuse you make doesn't stop the clock. It only makes you fall further behind. And here's where the shift happens. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one dramatic sweep. You don't need a grand gesture. You need one action, just one, that proves to yourself you're serious. Call the person. Open the laptop. Walk outside for 10 minutes. Send the email you've been avoiding. Those small moves do something big. They tell your brain that you're no longer a prisoner of excuses. You're someone who moves. The lazy voice in your head will keep whispering, "You're tired. You're not ready. You're not good enough. It's too late." And the longer you let that voice lead, the more it becomes your truth. But here's the secret. You can override it. You can cut it off mid-sentence by saying, "No, I'm doing this anyway." That act, defying the voice, is how you build strength. Your body moves, your mood follows, and suddenly you're no longer chained to how you feel. Feelings are temporary. Regret lasts longer. And let me tell you, nobody's coming to push you. No one will knock on your door every morning and drag you into action. You have to be the one to force yourself. That's not punishment. That's power. Because when you learn that you don't need to be motivated, you just need to decide, you change forever. You stop waiting for the right conditions. You stop giving control to your emotions. You become the kind of person who acts because you said so. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you deposit trust into your own account. You build grit. You create an identity that no longer depends on feeling good to perform. Winners live this way. They don't just show up when it's easy. They show up when it's cold, when they're tired, when no one is watching, when their friends are relaxing, when the applause is absent. They show up because they made a decision, and decisions stick. Ask yourself, how many times have I repeated the same excuse until even I no longer believe it? That's the day real change begins. The day your excuses lose their power. The day you finally go quiet inside and move without another word. That moment, though small, is the spark that lights momentum. And momentum is priceless. Once you start, the weight of inaction begins to dissolve. Remember this: the test isn't how much you can do when you feel amazing. The test is what you do when every cell in you wants to delay. That's where confidence grows. That's where discipline takes root. And every small victory over excuses builds the muscle of self-trust. Each time you show up, even reluctantly, you remind yourself, I can count on me. And here's something most overlook. The first step is always the hardest. It feels clumsy, awkward, uncertain, but it's also the most powerful moment you'll ever experience. Once you take it, your doubts begin to shrink, your mind quiets down, and your identity shifts. You move from being someone who waits to someone who acts. That's the transition you crave. That's the life you want. You don't need tricks. You don't need hacks. You don't need another motivational quote to stick on your wall. You need to decide. Decide that today won't pass without progress. Decide that this hour won't end without one meaningful action. Decide that your excuses no longer run the show. That's where freedom begins. Now, if you're listening right now, pause for a second. Notice the time of day. Notice where you are. In your living room, your car, your office. Drop a comment sharing where you're watching this and what time it is. You'll realize you're not alone. People around the world are fighting the same battles against procrastination. And while you're here, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, so you never miss the next push that might change your day. Because let's be clear, this is not about talking. This is not about planning. This is not about waiting for life to get easier. This is about moving. Even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's the last thing you feel like doing. That's where your strength lives. That's how you turn excuses into fuel. And as we close this first section, take this with you. Nothing changes until you get tired of your own excuses. That's the signal. That's the fire alarm. When you finally say, I've had enough, you've already begun to break free. The question is, will you act on that moment, or will you let it slip like all the others? In the next section, we'll dig into the razor-thin moment between thought and hesitation, the 5 seconds that decide everything. Because once you understand how quickly your brain sabotages you, you'll know exactly how to beat it. You've got about 5 seconds. That's it. 5 seconds before your brain talks you out of the very thing you know you should be doing. A thought comes. Get up, make the call, start the project, send the message. If you move in those 5 seconds, you change everything. But if you hesitate, even for a breath too long, your brain pulls you back into comfort. That's how quick the sabotage happens. Most people underestimate just how fast hesitation kills action. They think they're being careful, when in reality, they're being controlled by fear. Your mind whispers, later, not now. What if you fail? What if it's not the right time? These thoughts feel reasonable, even protective, but they're lies. They're resistance disguised as wisdom. And if you listen, you stay stuck. Action doesn't belong to thinkers. It belongs to doers. You already know enough. You don't need another book, another video, another round of planning. You need to catch the moment before your old habits drag you back. That's why the 5-second window matters. When you feel that spark of intention, you must move before hesitation steals it. Think about your mornings. The alarm rings. For a second, you're awake and clear. You could get up, but wait 3 more seconds, and your brain starts negotiating. Just 5 more minutes. It's not a big deal. You deserve rest. And suddenly, you've already lost. The battle wasn't about the alarm. It was about those seconds between impulse and excuse. The truth is, hesitation feels safe. It feels like you're analyzing, preparing, weighing options. But what you're really doing is draining your energy and training yourself to retreat. Every time you delay, you weaken your self-trust. You teach yourself that your own promises are flexible. And that's how confidence erodes. Not in one big collapse, but in tiny delays repeated day after day. The way out is simple, though not easy. Act before your feelings catch up. Say yes before fear argues. Move before doubt has a chance to multiply. Make the call before you rewrite the script in your head a dozen times. Action first, emotion second. That's the order of progress. And remember, you'll never feel like doing hard things. Never. If you wait until you want to, you'll wait forever. People who succeed aren't stronger, smarter, or luckier. They've just trained themselves to obey action instead of emotion. They see hesitation as a red flag. The second they feel themselves stall, they push forward anyway. That's how you build discipline, by acting faster than your excuses. Discipline isn't about speeches to yourself or long pep talks in the mirror. It's about shortening the gap between decision and movement. That's it. The smaller the gap, the stronger you become. Now let's be real. Your brain is designed to protect you, not to help you grow. Growth means risk. Change means discomfort. So every time you consider doing something outside your routine, your mind triggers alarms. It's too much work. You're not ready. What if people judge you? But these aren't truths. They're safety mechanisms. Your job is to ignore them long enough to act. And here's the paradox. Once you act, the fear shrinks. The weight lifts. The doubt dissolves. All because you interrupted the spiral in its infancy. You didn't let the hesitation snowball. You cut it off in those crucial first seconds. Let me give you some practical anchors. The next time you feel the urge to act, count backward from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then move. Stand up. Make the call. Open the file. The counting breaks the hesitation loop. It interrupts the brain's autopilot and forces you into motion. It sounds almost too simple, but simplicity is its strength. Complexity feeds overthinking. Simplicity feeds action. And every time you do this, you're not just accomplishing a task. You're rebuilding trust with yourself. That trust compounds. You begin to believe your own words again. You say, "I'll do it," and then you actually do. That's where confidence lives, not in compliments from others, but in the evidence you give yourself. Think about what's waiting on the other side of your hesitation. Every goal, every breakthrough, every result you've been dreaming about. It's all sitting there, hidden behind that first uncomfortable move. The only thing separating you from it is the choice to act now, not later. People who move fast reclaim their time. They stop spiraling in their thoughts. They stop wasting energy on what-ifs. They take back control. And when setbacks come, and they will, the habit of fast action gives them resilience. Because they've proven to themselves that discomfort doesn't decide for them. So the next time your mind whispers, "Do it later," recognize it for what it is: resistance, not wisdom. Interrupt it. Stand up. Take one action. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done now. Progress comes from motion, not from waiting for clarity. Clarity comes afterward. And let's circle back. This is not about perfection. It's about motion. Imperfect, messy, clumsy motion beats perfect planning every single time. Because once you start moving, you create momentum. And momentum is what pulls you through the hard days, the tired days, the days you least want to show up. You may wonder, but what if I fail? Here's the truth. You already fail when you don't act. At least by moving, you learn. You gain feedback. You adapt. Waiting teaches you nothing. Action teaches you everything. So here's your challenge. The next time you get that impulse to act, don't analyze it. Don't wait for a mood shift. Just count backward from 5 and move. Train your body to lead, and your mind will follow. That's the discipline that separates achievers from dreamers. As we close this section, remember this rule. Life rewards action, not hesitation. If you want to change, if you want to build confidence, if you want to feel alive again, you must act before your mind talks you out of it. In the next section, we'll break down how tiny, almost laughably small actions can destroy overthinking and create unstoppable momentum. Because once you learn the power of one small step, you'll never underestimate progress again. Overthinking is a trap that feels productive. You sit there, spinning scenarios, analyzing every possible outcome, convincing yourself you're being smart and cautious. But let's tell the truth. You're not building anything when you overthink. You're delaying, dressed up as strategy. And the longer you stay stuck in that mental loop, the harder it becomes to move. The real problem isn't that you don't know enough. It's that you won't take the first step. Action, even the smallest kind, is what breaks the cycle. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take a single step. And that step changes everything. Because movement alters your mental state. Your brain can't spiral in doubt and move at the same time. The second you act, you interrupt the loop. Think of all the times you've agonized over a decision for days, maybe weeks. The should I start? Should I wait? Loop eats your energy. Then one day, you finally act. Send the message, schedule the appointment, throw out the junk food, and you realize it wasn't nearly as hard as you built it up to be. What changed? Not the task. You changed. You finally stopped thinking and started moving. And here's the power of small actions. They bypass resistance. Big, dramatic goals terrify your brain. They look too heavy, too overwhelming. But tiny moves, they slip under the radar. Want to start exercising? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to 10 minutes of walking. Want to write a book? Don't set the goal of a chapter. Set the goal of one sentence. Want to save money? Don't plan a complete financial overhaul. Cancel one unnecessary subscription today. These micro steps may look trivial, but they carry massive psychological weight. Each one is proof. Proof that you're capable. Proof that you're moving. Proof that your excuses aren't in control anymore. and proof stacks. You go from one sentence to a page, from a 10-minute walk to a daily workout, from one subscription canceled to a healthier financial habit. Progress compounds. Overthinking makes the mountain look bigger than it is. Action makes it real. And once it's real, you can deal with it. That's the secret. The path is revealed one step at a time, not all at once. People waste years waiting for the full map before starting the journey. But maps don't appear until you move. You take the step, and then the next stretch of the path lights up. The strongest people you know aren't fearless. They aren't immune to doubt. They've just trained themselves to act in spite of it. They know the only way to shrink fear is to do the thing fear is warning them about. They know the fastest way to build confidence isn't talking, it's acting. That's how trust is built. Through repetition. Through following through on small promises. So when your brain screams, "It's too late, too complicated, too overwhelming," you answer back with one small move. Get out of bed. Open the laptop. Write the email draft. Do something that breaks the freeze. Because motion creates energy. You don't wait for energy to start moving. You create energy through movement. And here's something subtle but powerful. Small actions don't just create momentum. They reshape identity. Every time you do what you said you'd do, no matter how tiny, you shift the way you see yourself. You're no longer the person who waits, who plans endlessly, who lives in the someday. You become the person who moves. And once that identity takes root, it's hard to shake. Look at the people who actually achieve their goals. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't need flawless confidence. They simply stack small wins over and over until the impossible becomes inevitable. That's the discipline you want. The kind that's built step by step, not in giant leaps. And deadlines matter here. A small action attached to a real timeline has power. "I'll do it soon" is vague. "I'll do it by 3 p.m. today" is real. Deadlines create pressure. Pressure sharpens focus. Focus drives action. Without pressure, you drift. With pressure, you execute. That's why small actions paired with short timelines are unstoppable. They create urgency where none existed before. You might think pressure is negative, but pressure is a gift. It wakes you up. It silences distractions. It forces you to stop overthinking because there isn't time to spiral. You've got to move. And once you deliver under pressure, you start trusting yourself even more. You prove you can perform even when it's uncomfortable. That's how grit is born. But here's the catch. You must commit. No flexibility, no backup plan. No, "I'll get to it eventually." You set the deadline, you take the step, and you follow through. That's how you break the pattern of waiting. That's how you turn your goals from wishes into commitments. Let's bring this down to today. Look at your to-do list. There's one task you've been pushing from day to day. You know the one. That's your starting point. Don't overthink it. Don't wait until it feels right. Just do it. Right now, if you can. The win isn't in finishing the entire project. The win is breaking the chain of delay. Once you break it, momentum takes over. And I want to remind you, this isn't about doing everything. It's about doing something. The person who takes one small step daily will always outrun the person who waits for the perfect giant leap. Small, consistent actions beat occasional bursts of effort every time. So don't underestimate the power of a tiny move. That call, that message, that workout, that email, each one is a brick. And brick by brick, you build the life you want. Overthinking doesn't build. Talking doesn't build. Waiting doesn't build. Only doing builds. As we close this section, let me challenge you. Don't think about all the things you should be doing. Just ask yourself one question. What's one small step I can take right now? Then do it immediately. No debate, no delay, just one move. That's how you stop circling the same problems and finally move forward. In the next section, we'll zoom out to the systems that make discipline stronger than feelings. Because once you learn to build routines and make quitting hard, you'll stop relying on willpower and start relying on structure. That's where real consistency lives. Feelings are unreliable. They rise and fall like waves. Some mornings you wake up energized, ready to take on the world. Other mornings you feel heavy, unmotivated, and the last thing you want to do is move forward. If your life is ruled by feelings, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline is what frees you from that trap. Discipline says, I don't care how I feel. I act because I said I would. This is where systems come in. Too many people rely on raw willpower, but willpower is like a battery. It drains quickly. If your entire strategy is to just push harder, you'll burn out. But when you design routines and structures, you reduce resistance. You make action the default. Instead of waking up and debating whether to exercise, you've already laid out your workout clothes the night before. Instead of wondering when you'll work on your project, you've blocked the time in your calendar. Instead of letting quitting be easy, you make it costly. Let's talk about promises. Every time you say you'll do something and don't, you chip away at your self-respect. It's not just about disappointing others. It's about disappointing yourself. Your word becomes weaker. Soon, you don't even believe what you say. That's dangerous. But the reverse is also true. Every time you follow through, even in small ways, you strengthen your identity. You become someone who does what they say. That kind of integrity is powerful. It doesn't require applause. It doesn't need external validation. It comes from within. So the rule is simple. If it comes out of your mouth, it shows up in your behavior. If you say it, do it. Without delay. Not later. Not when conditions are perfect. Not after another round of planning. Say it, mean it, move. That habit alone can rebuild your life. Now let's address quitting. Most people fail not because they aren't capable, but because quitting is too convenient. They start with energy, but when it gets hard, they stop. Why? Because quitting costs them nothing. There's no consequence, no weight. To change this, you must flip the script. Make it easy to start and hard to quit. How? By designing your environment. Remove friction from starting. Set up your tools, prepare your workspace, simplify the first step. Then add friction to quitting. Tell a friend, put money on the line, set a public deadline, or track your progress so abandoning it feels like losing ground. When quitting carries a cost, you think twice before giving up. And when starting feels effortless, you're far more likely to build momentum. Another weapon is routine. A strong routine makes action automatic. Without a routine, you waste energy deciding what to do, and indecision breeds procrastination. With a routine, there's no debate. You do it because it's part of who you are. High performers aren't relying on daily motivation. They're relying on daily structure. Their calendars reflect their priorities. Their mornings are anchored by habits. Their evenings prepare them for the next day. And here's the thing. Routines don't restrict freedom. They create it. People fear structure because they think it limits spontaneity. But the truth is, structure removes chaos. It frees up mental space. It eliminates the exhausting daily debate about what to do. Once the essentials are locked into your routine, you gain more freedom to use your energy creatively. Let's ground this with examples. Want to build consistency in writing? Set a fixed time every day, even if it's just 15 minutes. When the clock strikes that hour, you write. No discussion. Want to exercise more? Choose the same 3 days each week, prepare your clothes, and don't give yourself the option to decide in the moment. Want to grow your career? Schedule 1 hour weekly to reach out, learn, or create. Non-negotiable. When it's in the routine, it happens. Now, think about your environment. What triggers pull you toward quitting? Maybe it's people who encourage laziness. Maybe it's your phone constantly buzzing. Maybe it's a workspace cluttered with distractions. Remove those triggers. Replace them with anchors that remind you of your commitments. A clean desk, a visible checklist, a partner who holds you accountable. You don't owe your time to distractions. You owe it to the future you're building. And remember, progress is more visible than you think. Track it. Mark the days you followed through. Note the habits you've stacked. When you can see your progress, quitting feels like throwing away real effort. That visual reminder keeps you locked in. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself when you feel like giving up. What would my future self want me to do right now? Would they want you to stop because it's uncomfortable? Or would they want you to push through because every hard step adds up to freedom later? The answer is obvious. Bring your future into the moment and let it guide you. So let's tie this together. Discipline over feelings. Promises kept without delay. Routines that remove choice. Environments that make quitting hard. This is the formula. It doesn't rely on mood. It doesn't require inspiration. It builds strength that carries you through low days, hard days, and messy days. Consistency isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about refusing to negotiate with yourself. It's about reducing the gap between intention and action until following through becomes automatic. That's when you stop being at the mercy of your emotions. That's when you finally start living by decision instead of reaction. As we wrap this section, hold on to this truth. You don't rise by chasing perfect conditions. You rise by building systems stronger than your moods. Discipline is not about harshness. It's about creating structure that frees you. And when you master that, you'll discover the kind of freedom that procrastinators never taste. The freedom of being reliable, consistent, and unshakable. Next, we'll face the ultimate test. Showing up when you least want to. Because that's the crucible where real strength is forged. The real test of your commitment doesn't happen on your best days. It happens on the days you least want to show up. Anyone can perform when energy is high, when the sun is shining, when everything feels aligned. That's not discipline. That's convenience. The true measure of strength is what you do when you're tired, when you're doubting yourself, when the mood is gone and the excuses sound convincing. That's where your future is decided. Your mind will always offer you a way out. It will whisper, "You need rest. This isn't the right time. No one will notice if you skip today." And those excuses will sound gentle, even logical. But deep down, you know the cost. Every skipped day chips away at your standard. Every broken promise weakens your identity. You may not notice it at first, but over time it adds up to regret. And regret is far heavier than discomfort. The solution is simple, though never easy. Show up anyway. You don't need to be at your best. You don't need perfect focus. You just need to be there, doing something, proving to yourself that your word means more than your mood. Because the day you force yourself to show up when you least want to is the day you take control back from your emotions. Think about it. Life doesn't pause when you're tired. Bills don't wait. Responsibilities don't take a break. Time doesn't slow down. If you only act when it feels good, you'll always be behind. But if you train yourself to act regardless of how you feel, you step into a rare kind of power. The kind that makes you unshakable. And here's a paradox. On your lowest days, your effort matters more than on your best. When you perform well under ideal conditions, that's expected. But when you push forward on the days you least want to, you strengthen something far deeper. Resilience. You teach yourself that difficulty doesn't decide for you. You prove that feelings don't have the final word. Let's make this concrete. Maybe today you plan to write 1,000 words, but your mind is foggy. Show up and write 200. Maybe you plan to hit the gym for an hour, but you're exhausted. Go for 20 minutes. Maybe you promise to call 3 clients, but anxiety is loud. Call 1. Showing up doesn't mean hitting perfection. It means refusing to vanish. The truth is, most people keep restarting because they don't push through on the hard days. They let one missed workout turn into a month. They let one skipped call turn into lost opportunities. They let one day of avoidance turn into a habit of quitting. And soon, they look back wondering how momentum slipped away. The answer is simple. They gave their excuses more power than their commitments, but not you. You can change that narrative. You can become the kind of person who shows up tired, who shows up uncertain, who shows up messy, but shows up. And every time you do, you rewrite your identity. You move from being someone who negotiates with themselves to someone who follows through no matter what. That identity is priceless. And don't confuse this with punishment. Forcing yourself to act on hard days isn't about self-cruelty. It's about self-respect. It's about honoring your word even when it's inconvenient. That kind of integrity builds peace. You go to bed knowing you didn't fold. You wake up knowing you can rely on yourself. That's confidence you can't fake. Remember this. Effort on your worst day still moves you forward. Maybe slower, maybe smaller, but forward nonetheless. And more importantly, it keeps your identity intact. You're telling yourself, I am the kind of person who doesn't disappear when things get tough. That belief will carry you through storms far bigger than today's tiredness. So what's the final takeaway? Don't chase perfection. Chase consistency. Don't worship motivation. Build discipline. Don't wait for comfort. Embrace responsibility. The gap between average and excellent isn't talent. It's the willingness to show up when it's hardest. That decision defines you. That decision shapes your future. Even if it's messy, even if it's half speed, even if no one is clapping, show up. Because showing up is the victory. Everything else is extra, and the more you do it, the stronger you become. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Now we've reached the close of this journey. You've learned the power of breaking excuses, acting before hesitation, building momentum through small steps, and designing systems that make discipline stronger than feelings. And now, you know the ultimate rule. Force yourself to show up when you least want to. That's where real greatness is forged. So let's seal this with a declaration. Say it to yourself. I am the kind of person who shows up. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Today, now. Because that's the only time you ever truly have. There will come a day when you wake up and everything in you screams, not today. The alarm feels heavier than usual. The tasks ahead look impossible. Your body aches, your mind is foggy, and your emotions are pulling you toward comfort. That's the day that matters most. That's the day that separates who you were from who you're becoming. It's easy to act when energy is high. It's easy to chase goals when motivation is flowing. But the truth is, greatness isn't built in easy moments. Greatness is built in the quiet, unglamorous hours when no one is watching, when no applause is waiting, when the only person holding you accountable is you. This is where your identity becomes unshakable. Because every time you act despite discomfort, you're proving something profound. Your word matters more than your mood. And when you start living that way, everything shifts. You stop being at the mercy of feelings. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You start showing up because that's who you are. Perfection is a trap. It tells you to wait until conditions align. Consistency is the truth. It tells you to act with what you have, right now. The people who achieve lasting change aren't flawless. They're relentless. They don't miss twice. They don't let a bad day erase their standards. They show up anyway. And here's the beautiful irony. The hardest days often leave the deepest pride. You go to bed exhausted, but inside, you feel taller. You know you didn't back down. That memory becomes fuel. The next time resistance rises, you recall that moment. You beat it once, you can beat it again. Slowly, you become unstoppable. So today, commit to this. One step, no matter what. One action, however small. Show up for yourself, even if nobody else notices. Because that's the foundation of a life you're proud of. Not built on flashes of motivation, but on the quiet strength of consistency. The door to your future is unlocked by one move. Showing up when you least want to. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Now.